Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today. We're going to get started in just a second. Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to welcome you to the Organic Trade Association's webinar, Digging into the New Organic Farm Data. Founded in 1985, the Organic Trade Association grows and protects organic with a unifying voice that serves and engages its diverse members from farm to marketplace. Today, OTA is the voice of a $63+ billion organic industry, representing over 10,000 businesses and farmers from farming associations from all 50 states. OTA members come from across the industry and supply chain, including growers, processors, certifiers, farmer associations, brands, consultants, retailers, and many more. It works to create a strong and valued and equitable organic brand by protecting organic regulations and developing a marketplace where our diverse members can flourish. We help protect and grow your business. Before we begin today, a few housekeeping items to highlight for all of you. Today's webinar is being recorded, as you should have seen as you joined. In the next business day, all registrants will receive a follow-up email, which will include a link to view today's recording, as well as the number of resources and links that we list throughout the webinar today. While I will share some of the links in the chat, please keep an eye out for that email as your best chance to find all of the resources from today's webinar consolidated in one place. During registration, we invited you to let our panelists know any questions that you might have. Those questions have been shared in advance of our live Q&A today after the presentation. Please use the Q&A panel today to ask any questions that you might have live during the webinar. We will identify relevant questions for our panelists as time allows today. And at the end of the briefing, or whenever you happen to leave today's webinar, Zoom will launch a brief survey. We value your feedback as members, and we would love to hear your feedback about our educational programming and would love to hear more about how we're doing and how we did today for you. Finally, if you happen to have any technical issues during the presentation, please notify me also in that Q&A panel and we'll assist as best as possible. With that, I would love to welcome on our session moderator for today's Q&A, Ryan Corey, Vice President of Economics at Mercaris. Ryan, it's such a pleasure to have you today. Thanks so much for being here.
Absolutely. And thank you, Libby, for inviting me in here to facilitate this conversation today. Very, very pleased to be a part of this conversation. And, it's always fantastic whenever we see new sources of information made available for, us who work within this organic market space. Just kind of maybe a quick introduction in terms of who Mercaris is for those of you who are not familiar with us. What Mercaris is, we are a industry-leading provider of market analysis, data and research within the IP commodity market spaces, primarily focusing on organic and non-GMO commodities. Within our platform, we provide a variety of different data tools, including a selection of market prices we collect through various market surveys, capturing things like spot and forward prices, examining food grade and feed grade markets within the IP space, looking at regional price differentials across things like organic corn, soybeans, wheat, oats, rye, barley, the majority of your various field crop commodities, as well as livestock, including dairy. We also do supply and demand analysis in terms of long-term and short-term strategic forecasting. We do import analysis for a lot of your concepts in which there isn't readily available organic import data, including things like organic canola, organic soybean meal, organic sunflowers. We also do acreage analysis that we update twice a year, as well as a organic and non-GMO facilities map, which enables our clients to be able to look at the landscape of access facilities in terms of delivery points for organic and non-GMO commodities, as well as a spatial map, which identifies how those locations are laid out relative to the landscape of organic agriculture. In terms of our data and some of the various users of our data, we really go all the way up and down the supply chain. Everything from growers who use some of our tools to understand better prices for their marketing decisions, as well as using our asset map to find better marketing opportunities. Mills, merchandisers, brokers who, again, using our information to help them with their marketing decisions and look for opportunities to develop grower plans and to connect with farmers. And then all the way up the supply chain, all the way through CPGs, consultants, and different industry financial analysts and investment groups, helping them to basically understand the market and make better strategic decisions with their node of the industry. And then as an additional element that the OTA has asked me to provide, these are a few sources that I personally use on a fairly regular basis in terms of trying to source other elements of organic market data. IFOAM and the IFBL provide a pretty fantastic annual outlook in terms of global organic acreage. That's a pretty useful resource. ThinBin is a fantastic survey that's conducted across the upper Midwest. They capture information in terms of cost of production, acreage, and yield across a variety of organic crop and livestock concepts. Of course, the OID, Organic Integrity Database, for trying to understand exactly where the certified organic operations are and what kind of crops and different livestock type of operations there are in the U.S. The USDA AMS has a variety of data tools that help you access things like market prices and production levels across a variety of different livestock and dairy concepts. USDA NASS and NASS QuickStats in particular, which I believe we'll have a deeper conversation around later in this presentation, is a fantastic resource for accessing a whole variety of organic market data. And then, of course, Organic Biz is a pretty handy source that collects and distributes some prices with regard to our Canadian organic products. And these are all resources that I access on a monthly, if not daily or weekly basis, depending on what I'm doing, to kind of help round out my perspective in terms of what's going on within the industry. A quick note on the data that we're going to be discussing today. The USDA will be discussing the results of its latest organic farm survey. Within the survey, it provides a variety of different pieces of information, including acreage, production, sales data for organic operations, and covering a wide variety of crops, including the field crops, which MCARS primarily focuses on, as well as a variety of fruit and vegetable crops and other livestock type information. And having this information available at this time is very crucial as we are approaching the Farm Bill this year, and understanding exactly where organic is within the United States and potentially where some of the challenges and the growth opportunities are is critical at this juncture. And then just a brief overview of the conversations we'll be having today. Tony Dorn from the USDA NASS Data Service will be discussing the results of the latest organic survey. That will be followed by a quick Q&A where we can discuss some of the deeper questions around that data and maybe some of its implications. And then we'll have a conversation with Ginger Harris from the USDA NASS discussing how QuickStats can be used effectively and maybe some of the different things that you can use with that data tool that can maybe help you understand the industry a little bit better and make better decisions with regard to your part of the market. And with that, I'll hand it over to Tony.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Good afternoon and welcome to the 2021 Certified Organics Briefing. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Really appreciate the chance to provide the results of all the hard work of everybody in NASS and all our cooperators, and also the producers who, every report is very important to us. So without them reporting to our surveys and responding to our surveys, all this great data that you see isn't possible. So we're very grateful to everybody and for the chance to be here. Just one disclaimer before I begin, that while we strive to have everything presented in this briefing to match the official records. If there is any discrepancy with what's presented in this briefing and presentation between that and the published estimates, always refer to the official published estimates. As far as the history of the organics data series, one thing to keep in mind is that 2021 is the 7th organic release by NASS. Also, the 2021 release was produced in cooperation with the USDA's Risk Management Agency. The 2019 organics release was the 6th by NASS. This was the planned census special study. And the 2008 Organic Production Survey was the first organics release done by NASS. Other NASS releases include 2011, which included certified organic operations only, 2014, which included certified, exempt, and transitioning land, and 2015 and 2016, which included certified organic production. Looking at the big picture, the 2021 organics releases a census of all known operators with certified or transitioning organic production in the United States. The sources for the sampling frame were producers identified as certified organic or transitioning to organic certification in NASS's list and the AMS National Organic Program list of farms. This release includes data at the commodity level for acreage, production, and sales for organic crop and livestock commodities, as well as marketing and production practices, crop insurance usage, production expenses, and acres transitioning into organic production. Also, all US states were included in this release. As far as response rates, like previous years, in 2021, the majority of respondents responded by mail, 39%. Phone respondents were second with 34%, while online response was 20% and 7% were from field enumeration. Now taking a look at certified organic farms, the steady increase continued in 2021. There were over 17,000 organic farms in 2021, an increase of 5% from 2019. As the chart on the right shows, there has been a steady trend in the increase of the number of organic farms since 2008. As far as total certified organic land, 2021 showed similar results from 2016 with 4.9 million acres, an 11% decrease from 2019. Organic cropland remained strong at over 3.6 million acres, a 3% increase from 2019. Organic pasture and rangeland decreased over 30%, which follows the decreasing trend since its peak in 2016. As you can see on the bar chart on the right, acreages have varied over time. Considering the top states as far as the number of organic farms, California remains the top state with over 3,000 farms. The comparison bar shows California's impact compared to other states. Wisconsin and New York were second and third, both with over 1,400 farms. Pennsylvania was fourth with over 1,100 farms, and Ohio rounded out the top 5. Iowa, Washington, Indiana, Vermont, and Minnesota rounded out the top 10, and most states increased in the number of farms from 2019. Considering the top states as far as land, California is also the top state with almost 1 million acres. New York and Montana are second and third, both with over 300,000 acres. Wisconsin, Texas, Oregon, Idaho, and Vermont all have over 200,000 acres. Colorado and Iowa round out the top 10. There was a decrease in organic land in California, which led to the overall decrease in the United States. Diving deeper into the top states by sales, California was a clear leader at over $3.5 billion in sales. Washington and Pennsylvania are next with over $1 billion in organic sales. The rest of the states are fairly close together, with Texas, Oregon, New York, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Michigan, and Colorado rounding out the top states. While sales in California decreased slightly, sales in Washington, Pennsylvania, and Texas showed strong increases. In order to get a geographical idea of organic sales by states, we can see how the leading area is the Pacific Coast, with California as a leader and Washington as second in sales. The Northeast and Great Lakes are also strong areas for organic sales, with Pennsylvania, New York, Wisconsin, and Michigan also in the top 10. These top 10 states account for 73% of organic sales in the United States. As far as the market value of certified organic products sold, all categories increased from 2019. Crop sales were over $6 billion, an increase of 6%. Livestock and poultry sales were almost $2.2 billion, up 32%. Livestock and poultry products, which consisted mostly of organic milk and eggs, totaled almost $2.9 billion, an increase of 15% over 2019. Total sales of organics was $11.2 billion, an increase of 13% from 2019. Now turning to sales by top commodities, we see that milk is the largest commodity with over $1.6 billion in sales. Broilers and eggs are second and third, each with over $1 billion in sales. Apples and corn are next with over $400 million each. Strawberries, cattle, and grapes have over $300 million in sales. Lettuce and soybeans round out the top 10 commodities. Looking at the change in sales of the top 10 commodities, we see that only grapes and lettuce decreased from 2019 to 2021, but all other commodities increased. At over $1.6 billion, milk increased 3% from 2019. Broilers, eggs, apples, and corn all increased over 30% from 2019. Strawberries and cattle had moderate single-digit increases. Lastly, soybeans increased, but were at a level of sales similar to 2016. Now turning to just the top crop commodities, we can see that the sales ranges are fairly close, with apples being the top commodity with over $600 million. Corn, strawberries, grapes, and lettuce round out the top 5 crop commodities in sales. As far as changes from 2019 to 2021, we see that all the top crop commodities, except grapes and lettuce, increased. As mentioned on the previous slide, soybeans had a strong increase in sales. Sales of all crop commodities were over $6.1 billion, an increase of 6% over 2019. Now turning to top livestock, poultry, and livestock products in sales, we see that milk, broilers, and eggs are the top 3 commodities, all with over $1.2 billion in sales. Cattle and turkeys round out the top organic livestock commodities. Sales of all livestock commodities and all livestock products were over $5 billion, an increase of 22% from 2019. As far as changes from 2019, all the top organic livestock and livestock products increased. Milk increased 3% from 2019, while broilers and eggs increased over 30% each. Now shifting to organic marketing practices, as shown by the instructions on the questionnaire at the top. Data were collected for edible agricultural products for human consumption, but products that were resold were excluded. In the table, we see that direct retail markets and institutions and direct-to-consumer sales were both marketed by over 3,000 farms. Value-added products were marketed by almost 1,500 farms. What stands out in the right columns is that direct-to-retail markets and institutions had a much larger portion, over $2 billion in sales, than direct-to-consumer sales, even with almost the same number of farms. Value-added products at over $700 million in sales. Now looking at the top organic production practices by the number of farms, we see that the top production practices were fairly consistent. The top production practice was buffer strips or border rows to isolate organics at almost 11,000 farms. The rest of the top production practices were used by over 6,000 farms. Comparing 2021 to 2019, we see that all the top production practices increased in 2021, except applying animal manure, which was down slightly. Use of no-till or minimum till increased the most from 2019. Now we'll take a look at the major challenges for certified organic farms based on the percent of farms. As you can see, price issues and especially market access challenges decreased from 2019, with market access challenges dropping 20%. Other challenges that producers faced remain similar to 2019. Considering the future production plans for certified organic farms, there wasn't much change. Most farms plan to maintain the current level of production in the future, 44%, which is unchanged from 2019. As far as transitioning land on certified organic farms, both farms and acres of land transitioning decreased from 2019. So while the acreage of organic land will continue to increase in the future, it is increasing at a slower rate. There was a 16% decrease in certified farms with transitioning land from 2019 to 2021 at over 1,500 farms. Both acres of cropland and acres of pasture and rangeland had double-digit decreases from 2019. This follows the trend in a decrease in organic land. Turning to non-certified farms with transitional land, we see that there were over 650 farms and over 62,000 acres of transitional land on non-certified farms. Most of the land, over 45,000 acres, is cropland, and over 16,000 acres is pasture and rangeland. While the number of non-certified farms with transitional land decreased 7% from 2019, acres increased 2%. The increase in land was driven by a 15% increase in cropland, even though there was a 21% decrease in pasture and rangeland. Next, we'll take a look at organic farms by sales class. The sales class of less than $10,000 had the fewest percent of farms at 11%. The sales class of $10,000 to $99,000 had the highest percent of farms at 39%. The largest sales class, $500,000 or more, represented 18% of the farms. As far as percent of sales, the sales classes below $500,000 accounted for a small portion of sales, but the largest sales class of $500,000 or more had the vast majority of sales at 86%. This is the general contact information in case people change positions. Otherwise, you may reach any one of us at NASS at our first name dot last name at USDA.gov. And thank you for the time and I appreciate being able to present the results of our survey today.
Thank you so much, Tony. And now we would like to transition into the next part of our presentation today, in which we will address some of your questions regarding the data that Tony just presented from the most recent organic survey from the USDA. And joining Tony, we'll have Adam Peters, Head of Environmental and Demographics with the USDA NASS, as well as Andrew Rozier and Daphne Schwaber, who are statisticians with the USDA NASS. And Tony, starting off, it looks like we have a few questions that have come in from our participants today. Maybe if you see some there that you would want to direct towards anybody who is a part of our Q&A panel today.
All right, thank you. Going in order, I'm not sure the first one, if that says, does the asset map include meat processing facilities? Is that one for you, Ryan, I think? But sorry, to pass it back to you.
No, that's perfectly fine. I was going to wait for that one to give you guys a little more space, but I can answer that one pretty quickly. No, the asset map that we provide on our website is strictly for organic grains and oilseeds. However, we do have data regarding those things that we keep on the back end. It's not part of our live website, but if that's a piece of information that you're interested in understanding and like to do some research, we do have data resources that are available for that.
All right. The next one I see is there any data to show the cost of goods sold by state? I think I'll pass that along maybe to Adam, if you don't mind answering that, Adam.
I do not. In fact, I can put in chat a link to view our actual publication, and it is on table 1 If you look down through there, you'll see value of sales of certified organically produced commodities. And then the states go left to right. So, just keep scrolling down. Eventually you'll get to your state. If you had one state in particular, I could say that number that's in the publication there. Hopefully that is the question you were asking.
All right. Thank you, Adam. The next question, maybe I'll pass that along to, let's see. And Andrew, I think Andrew, if you're there.
Hello. So the question about the industrial hemp, correct? Yeah. So we currently, I think, putting that on our current census, our 2022 census, and I do expect that probably in future organic surveys we would include hemp on our future organic surveys. So probably next time it should be there.
I'll follow up on Andrew's response. So as part of the data collection process for our organic surveys, we get together as a group in NASS and discuss the questionnaire content and discuss what items should be included, or if it's fallen out of favor, excluded from a questionnaire. So as Andrew mentioned, hemp is included in our 2022 Census of Agriculture, which is currently ongoing. So hemp will definitely be on the table for discussion as an inclusion for future organic surveys.
All right, thank you, Andrew and Daphne. And let's see here, I think the next one, I might be losing my place here. I think they're disappearing as we go. Let's see. The next one, I think, is it about cotton bales there? Is that back to you, Ryan?
Regarding the cotton bales, I don't know that I could particularly answer that question. It's discussing the amount of production within the survey versus what's reported within an AMS report.
All right. Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure either, since yeah, we'd have to have somebody probably from AMS to be here to address that. So I'm not sure we could table that. And the next question is, of the farms with more than $500,000 in sales, what percentage of these operate conventional and organic? So Adam, I guess, would you care to take that?
I can try. I think Andrew might have the answer to that already queued up.
So on our current survey, on the 2021 survey, we don't publish the number, how an operation sells their organic commodities. We're only publishing whether they sell organic commodities. We don't necessarily publish whether they have a conventional component to their operation or whether they sell some of their organic commodities conventionally, possibly. I think it was 2014 had a question on our questionnaire where we would break out the percent of their organic commodities that were sold organically. That you may find that useful. I think there's also some census data from 2017, I believe, that may have also broken out how the broad percentage of how much of a farm was organic and how much was conventional. I'd have to look a little bit closer at the census publication to give you a more clear answer, but I would definitely start with our 2014 survey where we do break out the amount that an organic farm will sell organic and the amount that they'll sell conventionally.
Right. Thanks, Andrew. I knew you had that ready, and I knew that we didn't ask that on our current questionnaire. So thank you.
All right. And the next question is, do soybeans and corn for grain include both for human food and animal feed? Is that broken down further into those two areas and in the data resource? So let's see, do I have a volunteer for that one from the NASS side?
I can try to take that one, Tony. So the data that we published for soybeans and corn, I believe, would both be for human consumption and animal feed. We don't break. I don't think we would break it out yeah, I don't think we would break that out. We do have a section for our direct food for human consumption, but we don't necessarily break out the commodity that's being sold. So yeah, for both soybeans and grain, that would be for both human consumption and animal.
All right, thank you, Andrew.
Can I hop in?
Then the
I want
next
to
one-
follow up on the previous
sure.
question about the organic sales. I went and looked at our 2017 Census of Agriculture data, and in table 72 of that publication, we have total organic product sales broken out by sales categories.
All right, thank you, Andrew and Daphne. The next question is, I'm looking for information specific to a certain crop, psyllium. Is there any organic, if I'm saying that right, psyllium production occurring in the United States? I'm not too familiar. Is anybody else on the team familiar with that crop?
So again, I can try to answer that. I don't think we published that. I may have been in one of our other crops that we'll publish abroad, other crops, but I don't think we published that specifically. So I can't address it other than we don't publish it directly.
All right, thank you, Andrew. And for the next one, I think that might be back to you, Andrew, for the next one. Can you dig into more on what we know about the decline in pasture and rangeland? Do we know if it is more representative of a trend in organic beef or organic dairy? Is it more pronounced in any particular region? I think you might have that one, Andrew.
Yeah, so we did notice the decline in acres. It's sometimes kind of hard to put a finger on exactly why something happens. It can decline for various reasons. Maybe there's changes to certifications or changes to rental contracts. I don't know that we could necessarily say that it's a trend. It's one data point over one year. I think we would probably want to wait a little bit longer before we would establish that as a trend.
Thank you, Andrew. And the next question is, what struck you as the most surprising results? Well, I'll go first and then I'll ask anybody on the panel too to go. But for me, one of the most surprising results is that the major challenges that certified organic farms faced really didn't change much at all between price or production problems. So there really weren't many changes, even though it was just a 2-year difference in surveys. The challenges they face, they're still facing. So that was really kind of a surprise to me. I don't know if anybody else has something they'd like to add on the panel, but that was one of the bigger surprises.
You know, one thing that I can throw out there as someone who's dug into the data as well, looking at where we saw acreage shift in the 2021 compared to the 2019, I don't know that I would say it's necessarily a surprise, but more of a confirmation of something we've seen within the field crop space. And I believe this may be one of the factors, if you dig into it, that you might find correlated with the shift in pasture and range. And that was the growth in soybean acres, organic soybean acres for 2021. You know, we've had a market that's been pretty tumultuous with regard to prices and supply in the organic soy space. And we definitely saw an acceleration of acreage move into organic soy production. So, you know, that was something that I looked for within the data. And again, maybe not as much of a surprise as a confirmation of something that we had been observing within the market, and could be one of the factors that underlie some of the other shifts that you see within the data.
And that's a great point. And with all the series that we have with the organic data series through the years and coming up with a census in the future, we have a really good measure of the trends and the shifts and everything. So I appreciate that too. And it's a very rich data set over the years. The next question is there a way to access yield, production, or volume per acre by crop from this data? Let's see. I don't know, Adam or Andrew, would you like to tackle that one?
So Andrew again,
He's quick
we
with
don't
that one.
publish a yield. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Adam.
No, you're fine, Andrew. Take it away.
Sorry, we don't publish yields, but we do publish our production and our acreage. So you just take the production and divide it by the acres. I think that's the only way we yeah, that's the only way we publish it for this.
Perfect, perfect.
All right.
And to not to bring this list of fantastic questions to an end, I know that we have a few more on here that we haven't addressed, and we can discuss afterwards, perhaps maybe how we might try to follow up on some of these, but so that we can make sure we provide enough time to continue on and provide an overview of NAS Quick Stats, where you folks may be able to go in and access this data and maybe answer some of these questions themselves. At this point, I'd like to move the conversation along and introduce our next presenter, Ginger Harris with the USDA. She'll be providing, or will be showing, a recorded overview of how to access USDA NAS Quick Stats, which can help you access all these different data points we've discussed, plus a great deal more. And Ginger, take it away.
Just wanted to say hello, and we have a lot of data to answer some of those questions you were asking in the Q&A in our Quick Stats data set. The overview video will show you how you access the data, give you some tips and tricks, but please feel free to contact us if the video doesn't answer all your questions or you're looking for particular data items. I'd be happy to help you find what you're looking for. Lots of data there, and we really are very happy when people are using it. Thank you. Everybody, I'm here to demonstrate our Quick Stats query tool, which is the source of all the which is where you can find all the data NAS publishes, including from the organic survey. One of the things you need to know is you see a whole screen of choices you can make. You can make the choices of what you want, where you want it, and when you want it in any order. You don't need to choose sequentially as you go through these screens. And that makes it a little easier actually to find the organic data, because you can make a few choices that are going to limit you to choices where the organic data is. One of the things you need to know about Quick Stats and the organic data is all the organic data is under the census program. So if you're just interested in organic data, the first thing you should choose will be the census button. Then it helps to know when we've conducted organic surveys. The most recent survey you've heard a lot about in this webinar is from 2021. So that may be a natural choice of where to start if you're looking for organic data. We also conducted a survey in 2019 as well. So you have a lot of choices when it comes to organic data. If you're unsure when an organic survey was conducted, you can find that information on our NAS website. So let's say you're interested in all the organic data from 2021, but you're just interested in a national perspective. You want to know every single organic item that was published in the 2021 survey. So once you choose census, you'll need to know the year. As I said, we're going to put all the data for 2021. And once you make that choice, it's going to limit the selection in the other buttons you can choose from. One of the things to know about Quick Stats is you can only bring back 50,000 data rows at a time. And you have a handy little tool up in the right-hand corner that says status. And when it's green, you know you've limited your query to an amount that will bring back data. Again, 50,000 rows, it looks like there were 33,460 rows available for surveys published under the census program in 2021. And you can see your geographies are national and state. Here's where you can make a choice. You can choose just the national data if you want, or you could choose a specific date. For now, I'm just going to demonstrate pulling the national level data. And once I make that choice, you'll see limits, other limits appear. And the other thing to know about is you don't have to make choices in any of these other fields. As long as you're under 50,000 rows, it will let you pull back all the data. You don't need to pull back. You don't need to make a choice of sector or group or commodity. This is going to give you all the organic data published at the national level in 2021. So once I make sure that my query will work, the status bar is showing green, I can just click on Get Data. And you'll see a variety of data items. You can see what commodities are available, what data items are available, and the domain. If you're just interested in organic data, all our data is stored with the domain of organic status, and sometimes as an additional domain with that, like organic status and area operated, for instance. So this can be a little clumsy to work with. You don't know necessarily what data items are here. But this is all the national data published from the most recently conducted organic survey, the 2021 organic survey. So as you can see, you have a lot of columns. You'll have a lot of data items. Here's the value. If you're working with a large data set like this, it's about 1,500 rows. One of the easiest things you can do is save it in a spreadsheet. So that's usually what I'll do if I just want to explore a data set. I'll pull back, a somewhat large data set in QuickStats. I'll save it to a spreadsheet, and it will automatically save as a CSV. It does look like that's the only choice, but a CSV file will usually open up in Excel. Just remember to save it as an Excel file later on. So in this particular browser, I just click save. It's going to save to a download folder. You can also choose a different folder, of course, to save it to. Click save, and then you can just open up the file. And it's going to open up into an Excel file, which you can manipulate in whatever type of program you want. So let's get back and we can look at that file later on. So that's an example of pulling back a lot of data at once. You just want general organic data. You don't know specifically which item you want, but you can use the search functions, the limit functions, etc. in Excel to see what kind of data is there. All the data here is, it will tell you sort of the metadata about it. You're in the year you're getting the data for, what geographic level the data is for, the commodity, and the particular data item you want. So the key concept here you'll want to look for is your data item and then a domain category. That describes the data. You can see we have values and we also publish a CV. A CV is a measure of statistical precision. For each data item, it's expressed in terms from 1 to 100%. So that's an example of pulling back a lot of organic data. You may not want to do that though. You may be interested in just one particular organic commodity. Let's, for instance, say you're interested in organic milk. You want to know how much milk was produced, what prices producers received for producing that milk. You want to know which states were most important for organic milk production. You can make those limits in the QuickStats query tool and get to that data pretty quickly. So let's go back to the QuickStats homepage. If you're unsure of what you had limited before, one of the things you can do is hit clear and start from the beginning. So let's say I'm interested in organic dairy milk, particularly in organic milk from cows, right? So I would just choose census. And this time I want to know, like, how has the market changed in the last 2 years? So I could look at the last 2 years of the organic survey from 2021. And then I just hit Control, like you would in any Windows application, and click 2019 as well. And then I get some other choices. So I need to know, what am I interested in? I'm interested in, say, the national and state level. A little tip when working with organic data, no organic data is published with a regional level, so that's a choice you can just eliminate. So just pull back the national and the state level data. And then I can make some choices. I can either go directly to the commodity if I know, what that commodity is in QuickStats. I could just look at the group if I just know, oh, it should be under dairy, or I think it may be under livestock. Just in this case, milk is stored under the dairy group. So I'm going to click on dairy. And then, of course, then I'm going to be able to limit it even further. I'm going to choose milk as a commodity. And then you can actually see, I talked about dairy milk from cows, but you can also see the census, the organic census also collects milk from goats as well. But let's just look at the organic milk from cows. You can see the items available are the number of farms that sold the organic milk, the amount of milk sold in terms of dollars, and then the amount of milk sold in terms of sales. So let's just pull back these 3 items, just click. I check my status bar to make sure I have a manageable number of records, and then I just click Get Data. And I've pulled back results. You can see I have national level farms. I have national level sales and then national level production. And you can see that each data item is on a separate row of this particular data set. But let's say I want one row for each of the geographies I've chosen. The QuickStats query tool has a feature that allows you to put all the items for one geography on the same row, as long as you don't have too many items. So if you right click on data item, you can say pivot by data item. That's going to allow you to pull back the data so that each particular value for the state, the region, say national geography or each of the individual states, is on one row. So now you can see which states had the most dairy operations. Each of these columns is sortable. So let's see if we can sort by this column. It may not work when you're in a pivot, but you can easily put the data in a spreadsheet, for instance. One of the other things you can do is save your query if you want to be able to refresh this later on, say after another organic survey. So if you click the Save button, one of the things it's going to do is ask you for a name for your data set. And we could just say organic data, click Next, and it's going to give you a URL. And say you said you found this organic milk data and you wanted to share it with a colleague or a friend. All you would need to do is copy and paste this URL, and you can just send that in the mail. And once your colleague opens that URL, they should be able to see exactly what you saw in QuickStats.
Thank you so much, Ginger. That was very informative, very detailed. At this point, if you have any questions you'd like to run past Ginger in terms of, maybe some of the functionality or uses within Ask QuickStats, we have a little bit of time. We can kind of go over those.
It does look like someone had a question saying the video was a little blurry. The video, I think Libby sent out a link in the chat. I'm sure she can put it in there again. The video is going to be available on YouTube, so you can watch it on YouTube, where it should be a lot more clear.
Yes, absolutely. And I believe there's an additional section of this as well that'll be made available after this webinar. So if I'm not mistaken, there's another section covering other uses and other elements within the data.
There's a lot more data, lots of ways to get it. And again, if you can't find it and you're looking for more tips and tricks, please contact us. We'd be happy to help you find any and all of the organic data you're looking for.
Yeah, I can absolutely second that. It's NAS quick stats a lot of times over my years, and USDA data in general. They're a fantastic resource for any kind of questions you might have about accessing or understanding any of the information that they publish. So highly advocate reaching out to the individuals at the USDA for any kind of questions you have. Well, it doesn't appear that we have any more questions regarding NAS quick stats use coming in. It does look like we have some other questions that we haven't resolved. I don't know if we want to perhaps maybe use a little bit of the remaining time to address some of those questions.
Sure, that would be fine.
Fantastic.
Let's see. All right, and I think, let's see if I remember right, the one about digging into more about what we know on the decline in pasture and rangeland. Do we know if it's more representative of a trend in organic beef or organic dairy? I think, did we answer that one or not? I can't remember.
We had some
Maybe
conversation around some of the different factors that could be
Okay.
driving the transition and some of the reduction in acreage away from pasture and rangeland. I don't know if you had any additional points that you wanted to add to that conversation.
Nothing more than what Andrew.
No, I think that was good. Right. Yep. I see where we
Yeah.
are now. Yep. So I think the next one is the large discrepancies between NAS and California and the California Department of Food and Agriculture data. For example, NAS reports under 1 million acres of certified farmland in California, where CDFA has 2.2 million acres, and that different methodology used. Are there any plans to address this issue? So I'm not sure if anybody else would volunteer for that one, but you know, you're there, Andrew.
Try to take a shot at that. Yes, I'm not exactly familiar with CDFA, but I have noticed occasionally that so NAS, we will exclude short-term pasture agreements. We normally call it something like AUM, and that's normally a significant amount of acreage on a lot of farms. If we did report it, it would be a significant amount of acreage, but we keep the AUM land off of a farm because we don't think it's necessarily part of their farm. We don't believe it's, we don't calculate it as part of their farm. It's something that they don't necessarily have, the producer doesn't necessarily have control over it. They don't have, the government may ask them to leave at the end of the contract or in the middle of the contract. So we don't necessarily consider part of their operation, but oftentimes I do find many organizations will include AUM land, those really large pasture allotments in their total number. So that might be an example of what's happening here.
All right, thank you, Andrew. The next one is, do the sales increase percent account for inflation? And I know we just asked sales in general. We don't have a factor that we factor for inflation or anything like that. It's not adjusted for inflation or anything like that. So the answer to that would be no. Do you know the annual average increase in organic crop acres versus the annual average increase in organic food demand? If you do, and the rates increase differ, do you know why they differ? Well, I think, the Economic Research Service of USDA, they have more food demand and consumption. They have some data products related to that where they might have more information on that. Also, I'm not sure if somebody else on the team would like to answer anything else, but I think the Economic Research data series might have the other component of that.
Well, and you know, honestly, the OTA also publishes an annual industry survey where they estimate retail organic sales in the US on an annual basis. I believe 63 million was the total number for organic sales over 2021, with, if you guys might correct me if I'm wrong, with about 54 million of that being in food. And I think if you compare the growth statistics between, you know, US production and that consumer demand number, you'll see consumer demand has been growing faster. I think it's up about 34% from 5 years ago compared to US production, which is up, I think, about 27%. And if you look at some of the discrepancies between the two of those things, one of those factors is going to be inflation. Another factor within that is going to be, you know, within the US, we are a net importer on a variety of organic goods, and there's slightly different measures within the supply chain. So they're going to have slightly different indicators. But in gross, if you compare those two statistics, really what it kind of indicates is, on one hand, we continue to have strong consumer demand growth, and that consumer demand growth is a bit of a bedrock in terms of growing organic production in general in the US. And we continue to see growth within US organic acres and production as a result. If I could address one general question, I know it was addressed within the text answers, but I think some people have asked it a few times in terms of what were the percentage of respondents within the NASS survey. Looks like, Daphne, you responded with 42.6% was the response rate within the survey, if that's correct.
Correct. You can find more information about our data collection methodology in Appendix A of our report.
Fantastic. And I think we have time for maybe just one more brief question, if there's any number that you want to, or any of these that look like they might have a nice snappy answer to them.
Yeah, Ryan, maybe I'll ask a wrap-up question, and then
Sure.
I think we'll head in. We've got a couple minutes left. So maybe the question I'll ask here real briefly is, can you talk a little bit about the response rate and what value it is to have more respondents, Tony, for the audience?
Yeah, that is a great question. You know, without response to the surveys, really the data's, you know, it's just vital for any type of data. And everybody's looking for more granular data. I mean, the more local level data, the more specific items. So every report counts and every producer counts. We measure demographics, so it doesn't matter if you know, a producer is large or small. When we're counting number of farms or we're counting demographics, everybody's just as important. You know, small producers are just as important as large producers, and you know, any type of specialty information is very important. So every report is vital. We can't, you know, we can't model, we can't do any kind of fancy statistics to make up for not having a good quality response. And we know that it takes quite a bit of time to report on many of our surveys, but even though the surveys are long, that's what makes them valuable. And it's, you know, the longer they are, sometimes the more valuable they are and richer data sets. So, you know, we appreciate every farmer, and that's really why it's so important to everybody. And a lot of times the producers filling out the survey don't see directly how that benefits them, but there's many ways that they don't see, and just to know that there's many benefits they might not see. So it's very important, and we really appreciate those responses.
Thanks so much, Tony. I think that's a really great wrap up for the conversation. And I want to thank all of you for jumping back in and answering some more questions for everyone. I'll thank all of you and do a quick wrap up for our audience that is with us. The Organic Trade Association, which just wants to highlight some more upcoming educational opportunities that we're hosting. Webinars like today, briefings in the next couple of weeks are ways to engage and take full action on your membership. So 2 webinar briefings that I'm going to quickly note. You'll see a little bit about them on screen, and Angie just put a link in the chat. We're doing a briefing next week on the newly released Strengthening Organic Enforcement Final Rule. You'll hear a first look analysis from our expert regulatory team. It's next Friday. This is member exclusive. We really hope that you can join us. And our next briefing after that, the following week, is on OTA's launch of the organic priorities for the 2023 Farm Bill. So data from today playing into the conversation that we'll be having in 2 weeks. You'll be joined by OTA CEO Tom Chapman, our legislative experts, as well as a number of our board members on Thursday, February 9th. Beyond that, we also want to quickly highlight that we do have some in-person opportunities to engage with the Trade Association and with the Organic Center. You'll see more in the link about our annual science benefit that'll be happening at Expo West out in Anaheim in March. You can sign up to register through the link in the chat, as well as Organic Week. Everyone's favorite organic event of the year is May 9th to the 11th in Washington, D.C. We hope that all of you can join us for that as well. And finally, as I said before, and as we've echoed throughout this webinar, thank you so much to NAS for joining us, to Adam, Andrew, Daphne, Ginger, and Tony, to Ryan from Mercaris. We appreciate so much all the work in putting together today's webinar and showing us how to successfully access the data as well. We appreciate your time and preparation for today. To our OTA members in attendance, thank you for taking the time to join us on a Friday afternoon or morning. And one final reminder, again, an email will include a link to the full recording. We'll have that separate recording from Ginger walking through how to use the data and access it, along with the section that you didn't get to hear today. It's really great. On behalf of the Organic Trade Association staff and our board of directors, we hope to have you join us at future organic educational opportunities. And please have a wonderful day, everyone. Thanks so much.